Odyssey Book 8. The Games, the Song of Ares and Aphrodite, the Wooden Horse, and the Weeping Guest. When dawn appeared, the early born with fingers of rose, the sacred strength of Alcinous rose up from his bed. And up rose Zeus-born Odysseus, sacker of cities. And the sacred strength of Alcinous led the way to the Phaeacians' gathering place, built there beside the ships. They came and sat down on the polished stones side by side. And Pallas Athena went up and down the city in the likeness of a herald of wise Alcinous, devising the homecoming of great-hearted Odysseus, and standing beside each man she spoke her word. This way, come, leaders and counselors of the Phaeacians, to the gathering place, to learn about the stranger who has come new to the house of wise Alcinous after wandering the sea, a man like the immortals in body. So speaking, she stirred the strength and spirit of each. And quickly the gathering place and the seats were filled with men assembling. And many marveled at the sight of Laertes' battle-wise son. For Athena poured a wondrous grace over his head and shoulders and made him taller to look at, and broader, so that he might be dear to all the Phaeacians, and dreaded and revered, and might accomplish the many trials in which the Phaeacians would test Odysseus. And when they were assembled all in one gathering, Alcinous addressed them all, and said, "Hear me, leaders and counselors of the Phaeacians, while I say what the heart in my breast commands. This stranger, I do not know who he is, has come wandering to my house, whether from the men of the east or of the west. He presses for ascending, and pleads that it be made sure. Let us then, as always before, speed his sending on. For no man, no one who ever comes to my house waits here long, grieving for his escort. Come, let us haul a black ship down to the bright salt water, one on her first voyage, and let 52 young men be chosen through the town, as many as have proven best. Lash your oars well to the benches, every one, then come ashore, and afterward come to my house and see to a feast at speed. I will provide well for all. To the young men these are my orders, and you others, sceptred kings, come to my beautiful house, so we may welcome the stranger in the halls, let no man refuse, and call the godlike singer Demodocus, for to him the god has given song beyond all others, to delight men however his heart is stirred to sing." So speaking he led the way, and the sceptred kings followed with him, and a herald went for the godlike singer, and the 52 young men chosen out went, as he commanded, to the beach of the barren sea. And when they had come down to the ship in the sea, they hauled the black ship down to deep water, and set the mast and the sails in the black ship, and fitted the oars into their leather slings, all in due order, and spread the white sails open. They moored her well out in the water, and then went their way to the great house of wise Alcinous, and the porticos and courts and halls were filled with men assembling. There were many, young and old. For them Alcinous slaughtered 12 sheep, 8 white-tusked hogs, and 2 shambling oxen. These they flayed and dressed, and made the lovely feast ready. And the herald came near, leading the trusted singer, whom the muse loved beyond other men, and gave him good and evil both. She took away his eyes, and gave him sweet song. For him Pontonous set a silver-studded chair in the middle of the feasters, leaning it on a tall pillar, and hung the clear-voiced lyre on its peg just above his head, and showed him how to reach it with his hands, and set by him a basket and a beautiful table, and a cup of wine beside, to drink when his heart should bid him, and their hands went out to the good things spread before them. But when they had put away desire for food and drink, the muse stirred the singer to sing the famous deeds of men, from that song whose fame had then already reached wide heaven, the quarrel of Odysseus and Achilles, Peleus' son, how once they clashed at the gods' rich feast with terrible words, and the lord of men Agamemnon rejoiced in his heart that the best of the Achaeans were quarreling, for so Phoebus Apollo had told him in prophecy at holy Pytho, when he crossed the stone threshold to consult the god. Then the beginning of woe was rolling down on Trojans and Danaans alike. This the famous singer sang, but Odysseus took his great purple cloak in his heavy hands, and drew it down over his head, and hid his handsome face. He was ashamed to let the tears run under his brows before the Phaeacians. Whenever the godlike singer paused in his singing, he would wipe the tears away and take the cloak from his head, and lifting the two-handled cup would pour to the gods. But whenever he began again, and the best of the Phaeacians urged him to sing, because they took joy in the tale, Odysseus would cover his head again and mourn. From all the others he hid the tears he shed. Alcinous alone remarked him and noticed, sitting beside him, and heard his heavy groaning. At once he spoke among the oar-loving Phaeacians. Hear me, leaders and counselors of the Phaeacians. By now we have had our hearts fill of the shared feast, and of the lyre, which is the companion of the rich feast. Now let us go out and try our hands at contests, all of them, so that the stranger may tell his own people, when he has come home, how far we surpass others at boxing and wrestling and jumping and speed of foot. So speaking he led the way, and they went with him, and the herald hung the clear-voiced lyre on its peg, took Demodocus by the hand, and led him out of the hall, guiding him along the same road the others had gone, the best of the Phaeacians, to wonder at the games. They went their way to the gathering place, and a huge crowd followed, thousands, and many fine young men stood up. Up rose Acroneus and Osculus and Elatrius, Nautius and Primaeus and Anchialus, and Eretmeus, Pontius and Proreus, Thun and Anabesineus, and Amphialus son of Polyneus, Tecton's son, and up rose Euryalus, the equal of man-destroying Ares, Naubolus' son, who was best in beauty and body of all the Phaeacians after blameless Laodamas. And up stood the three sons of blameless Alcinous, Laodamas and Halius and godlike Clytonius. First they made trial of one another in the foot race. The course was stretched for them from the turning post, and all together they flew off quickly, raising the dust of the plain, and far the best at running was blameless Clytonius. By as much as the width of a mule team's furrow in fallow ground, by that much he outran the rest to the crowd, and left them behind. Then they made trial of grinding wrestling, and there Euryalus outdid all the best. At the jump Amphialus was first of them all. With the discus far the best of all was Elatrius, and at boxing Laodamas, Alcinous' good son. And when they had all taken their heart's pleasure in the contests, Laodamas, Alcinous' son, spoke among them. Come, friends, let us ask the stranger whether he knows any contest, and has learned it. In build at least he is no mean man, the thighs and calves of him, the 2 arms above, the massive neck, the great strength. Only he is broken by many evils. For I say there is nothing worse than the sea to shatter a man, however strong he be. Then Euryalus answered him in turn, and said, Laodamas, you have spoken this word in due measure. Now go yourself and challenge him, and speak your speech. And when the good son of Alcinous heard it, he went and stood in the middle, and addressed Odysseus. Come you too, father stranger, try your hand at the contests, if you have learned any, and it is like you to know contests. For there is no greater fame for a man while he lives than what he achieves with his own feet and hands. Come, make a trial, scatter the cares from your heart. Your road will not be long delayed now. Already the ship is hauled down, and the companions are ready. Then Odysseus of the many designs answered him, Laodamas, why do you all urge this on me, mocking? Cares are closer to my heart than contests. I have suffered much before now, much have I labored, and now I sit in your gathering, hungry for homecoming, pleading with the king and with all the people. Then Euryalus answered him, and jeered to his face, No, stranger, I do not take you for a man of contests, such as are held in plenty among mankind, rather for one who plies to and fro in a many-benched ship, a master of sailors who are traders, with a memory for cargo, an eye on his freight and his grasping profits. You are no athlete. Then, glaring from under his brows, Odysseus of the many designs replied, Stranger, you have not spoken well. You are like a man blinded by folly. So true it is that the gods do not give their graces to all men alike, not build and brains and speaking skill together. One man is slighter to look at, but the god crowns his shape with words, and men gaze at him delighted, while he speaks on without a stumble, with honeyed modesty, and shines among the gathered people, and when he walks the town they look on him as on a god. Another again is like the immortals in beauty, but no grace is set like a crown upon his words. So with you, your looks are striking, not a god could better them, but your mind is an empty thing. You have stirred the heart in my breast by speaking out of all measure. I am no novice at contests, whatever you may say. I count myself among the first, as long as I could trust my youth in these my hands. Now I am held in misery and pain. I have endured much, cutting through wars of men and the grinding waves. But even so, for all my many evils, I will try your contests. Your word has bitten to the heart, and your speech has stung me to it. He spoke, and cloak and all he sprang up, and seized a discus bigger than the rest, and thick, heavier by no small measure than the ones the Phaeacians threw among themselves. He spun and let it fly from his massive hand, and the stone hummed, and down to the ground they cowered, the Phaeacians of the long oars, men famed for ships, under the rush of the stone, past all their marks it flew, running light off his hand. And Athena set the mark, in the likeness of a man, and spoke a word and named him. Even a blind man stranger could pick out your token, groping, for it is not mixed in with the crowd of them but far in front. Take heart at least for this contest. No Phaeacian will reach this, let alone throw beyond it. So he spoke, and much enduring noble Odysseus was glad, rejoicing to find one true friend in the field. And then with a lighter heart he spoke among the Phaeacians. Now match that, young men. And soon after, I think, I will send another as far or farther still. As for the rest of you, whoever's heart and spirit bid him come out and be tried, since you have angered me so. At boxing, wrestling, running, I refuse nothing, any Phaeacian at all, except Laodamas himself. He is my host. Who would fight the man who loves him? Witless, worth nothing, that is the man who challenges his own host to a bout of games in a strange country. He cuts himself off at the knees. But of the rest I refuse no one, scorn no one. I want to know you and be tried face to face. I am not bad at anything, of all the contests men keep. I know well how to handle the polished bow. First of a company I would strike my man with an arrow in the enemy crowd, though comrades in plenty stood close beside me shooting at the men. Philoctetes alone outdid me with the bow in the Trojans' country, whenever we Achaeans shot. But of all others I say I am far the best, all mortals now alive who eat their bread on earth. With the men of the past I will not seek to rival, not Heracles, not Eurytus of Oechalia, who rivaled the very immortals with the bow. That is why great Eurytus died so soon. Old age never found him in his halls. Apollo in his anger killed him, for daring to challenge him at the bow. And I hurl a spear as far as another man shoots an arrow. Only at running I fear one of you might pass me, one of the Phaeacians. I was broken past all decency among the many waves, with no steady keep aboard ship, and so the joints of my limbs are loosened. So he spoke, and they were all hushed in silence. Alcinous alone made him this answer. Stranger, nothing you say among us is said ungraciously. You are willing to show the prowess that attends you, in anger that this man stood up beside you in the field, and taunted you, as no mortal would slight your prowess who knew in his heart how to speak things fitly. But mark my word now, so that you may tell it to another hero, when in your own halls you feast beside your wife and your children, and remember our prowess, what work Zeus grants to us as well, unbroken from our fathers' days. For we are not flawless boxers, nor wrestlers, but we run swift-footed, and we are best with ships, and always dear to us is the feast, the lyre, the dances, changes of clothing, hot baths and beds. Come then, dancers of the Phaeacians, all your best, and play, so the stranger may tell his own people, when he has come home, how far we surpass others in seamanship and running and dance and song. And let someone go quickly and fetch Demodocus the clear-voiced lyre, which lies somewhere in our halls. So spoke godlike Alcinous. And a herald rose to bring the hollow lyre from the king's house. And chosen stewards stood up, 9 in all, public men who at the gathering set each thing in order. They smoothed the dancing floor, and widened a fine ring. And the herald came near, bearing the clear-voiced lyre for Demodocus, and he stepped to the middle, and around him stood boys in their first youth, skilled in the dance, and they beat the shining floor with their feet. And Odysseus gazed at the flickerings of their feet, and marveled in his heart. And the singer, striking the lyre, struck up a beautiful song of the love of Ares and Aphrodite, of the lovely crown, how first they lay together in the house of Hephaestus, in secret, and Ares gave her many gifts, and shamed the marriage bed of the lord Hephaestus. But to him came a messenger, Helios the sun, who had seen the two of them lying in love. And when Hephaestus heard the heart-stinging tale, he went his way to his forge, brooding evils deep in his heart, and set the great anvil on the block, and hammered out bonds that could not break or slip, to hold them fast where they stood. And when he had made his snare, in his fury against Ares, he went his way to the chamber where his own bed stood. And around the bedposts he poured the bonds in a circle everywhere, and many hung down from above, from the roof beam, fine as spider webs, which no one could so much as see, not even the blessed gods, for they were made past all cunning. And when he had poured his whole snare around the bed, he made as if to go to Lemnos, that strong-founded city which is dearest to him by far of all lands. And Ares of the golden reins kept no blind watch, he saw Hephaestus, famed for craft, going off, and went his way to the house of famous Hephaestus, hungry for the love of Cytherea, of the lovely crown. She was newly come from her father, the mighty son of Cronos, and had just sat down, and he came inside the house and clamped a hand on hers, and spoke a word and named her. Come, love, to bed, and take our joy together lying close. Hephaestus is no longer at home. By now, I think, he is off to Lemnos, among the wild-tongued Sintians. So he spoke, and welcome it seemed to her to lie with him. So the two went to the bed and lay down, and around them poured the artful bonds of Hephaestus of the many designs, and they could not move a limb, could not lift themselves, and then they knew it. There was no escaping now, and near them came the famous god of the two strong arms, turned back on his road before ever reaching Lemnos. Helios had kept the watch for him, and told him the tale. He went his way to his house, his heart heavy within him, and stood in the gateway, and savage anger gripped him, and he cried out terribly, and called to all the gods, Father Zeus and you other blessed gods who are forever, come here, see something for laughter, deeds past bearing, how Aphrodite, Zeus's daughter, forever dishonors me for being lame, and loves that destroyer Ares, because he is handsome and straight of limb, while I was born crippled. And whose fault is that? No one's but my two parents. I wish they had never bred me. Look, see where the two of them sleep in love, climbed into my own bed, and I watch, and it eats my heart. Yet I do not think they will want to lie so 1 minute longer, however much in love. Soon enough, the two of them will lose their taste for sleeping, but the snare and the bond will hold them until her father pays me back the bride gifts, every one, all I handed over for his bitch-eyed girl, because his daughter is beautiful and cannot hold her heart. So he spoke, and the gods gathered to the bronze-floored house. Poseidon came, who holds the earth, and the runner Hermes came, and the Lord who works from far, Apollo. But the goddesses stayed at home, for shame every one of them. So they stood in the gateway, the gods, the givers of good things, and unquenchable laughter rose among the blessed gods as they gazed on the craft of Hephaestus, of the many designs. And thus one would say with a glance at his neighbor, bad deeds do not prosper, the slow one catches the swift. Look, Hephaestus now, slow as he is, has taken Ares, the swiftest of the gods who hold Olympus, lame and by craft. Now the adulterer's fine is owing. So they spoke such things to one another. But the Lord Apollo, son of Zeus, said to Hermes, Hermes, son of Zeus, guide, giver of good things, would you be willing, pressed hard in strong bonds, to sleep in that bed beside golden Aphrodite? Then the guide, the slayer of Argus, answered him, If only that could be, Lord Apollo of the far arrows. Let 3 times as many bonds hold me, past all number, and you gods look on, yes, and all the goddesses too, I would still sleep beside golden Aphrodite. So he spoke, and laughter rose among the deathless gods. But Poseidon did not laugh. He kept pleading with Hephaestus, the famous worker, to set Ares free, and lifting his voice he spoke winged words to him. Release him. I promise you, before the deathless gods, he shall pay all that is fair, as you demand. Then the famous god of the two strong arms answered him, Do not ask this of me, Poseidon who hold the earth. Worthless the pledges you take for worthless men. How could I hold you bound before the deathless gods, if Ares slips both debt and bond, and goes his way? Then Poseidon the earth-shaker answered him, Hephaestus, if Ares does slip his debt and vanishes, I will pay you the fine myself. Then the famous god of the two strong arms replied, It cannot be, and it would not be right, that I refuse your word. So speaking, the strength of Hephaestus undid the bond, and the two of them, loosed from the bond, strong as it was, sprang up at once. He was gone to Thrace, and she came to Cyprus, laughter-loving Aphrodite, to Paphos, where her precinct is, and her altar fragrant with smoke. There the Graces bathed her, and rubbed her with oil, the immortal oil that blooms on the gods who are forever, and dressed her in lovely clothing, a wonder to see. This the famous singer sang, and Odysseus took delight in his heart as he listened, and so did the others, the Phaeacians of the long oars, men famed for ships. Then Alcinous told Helios and Laodamas to dance alone, since no one could rival them. And when they had taken in their hands the beautiful ball, purple, which wise Polybus had made them, one would bend far back and hurl it up toward the shadowy clouds, and the other, leaping high off the ground, would catch it lightly, with ease, before his feet came back to earth. And when they had tried their skill at the ball thrown straight up, then the two of them danced on the nourishing earth, passing it swiftly back and forth. And the other young men beat time, standing around the ring, and a great din went up. And then noble Odysseus addressed Alcinous. Lord Alcinous, most renowned among all peoples, you promised your dancers were the best, and here it stands accomplished. Awe takes me, looking at it. So he spoke, and the sacred strength of Alcinous was glad, and at once he spoke among the oar-loving Phaeacians. Hear me, leaders and counselors of the Phaeacians. This stranger seems to me a man of clear-headed sense. Come, let us give him a guest gift as is fitting. 12 glorious kings hold sway through this land as leaders, and I myself am the 13th. Let each of you bring a fresh-washed mantle and a tunic and a talent of precious gold, and let us bring it all together at once, so that the stranger may take it in his hands and go to supper glad at heart. And let Euryalus make it up to him man to man with words and with a gift, for his word was not spoken in due measure. So he spoke, and they all approved it and urged it on, and each sent off a herald to bring his gifts. And Euryalus answered him in turn and said, Lord Alcinous, most renowned among all peoples, I will make it up to the stranger, as you command. I will give him this sword, all bronze, with a hilt of silver on it, and a scabbard of fresh sawn ivory turned round it. It will be worth much to him. So saying, he set the silver-studded sword in his hands, and lifting his voice, he spoke winged words to him. Hail, father stranger. If some word was blurted out too harsh, may the storm wind snatch it up and carry it away. And may the gods grant you to see your wife, and to come to your fatherland, for long far from your own people you have suffered pains. Then Odysseus of the many designs answered him, And to you, friend, hail, and warmly. May the gods give you fortune, and may you never feel the lack hereafter of this sword you have given me, you who made it up to me with words. He spoke, and slung the silver-studded sword about his shoulders, and the sun went down, and the famous gifts lay there before him. The lordly heralds carried them to the house of Alcinous, and the sons of blameless Alcinous received them, and set the beautiful gifts before their honored mother. And the sacred strength of Alcinous led the way, and they came and sat down on the high seats. And then the strength of Alcinous said to Arete, Bring here a glorious chest, wife, the best one, and set in it yourself a fresh-washed mantle and a tunic, and heat the bronze cauldron over the fire and warm water, so that once he has bathed and seen well laid together all the gifts the blameless Phaeacians have brought him here, he may take joy in the feast and in hearing the singers strain. And I will give him this beautiful cup of mine, golden, so that remembering me all his days he may pour in his hall to Zeus and the other gods. So he spoke, and Arete told her slave women to set a great 3-legged cauldron on the fire with all speed. They set the bath cauldron on the blazing fire, and poured water in, and fed the wood beneath till it flamed. The fire wrapped round the belly of the cauldron, and the water warmed. Meanwhile Arete brought out from her chamber a beautiful chest for the stranger, and laid the fine gifts in it, the clothing and the gold the Phaeacians had given, and in with them she laid a mantle and a beautiful tunic, and lifting her voice she spoke winged words to him. See to the lid yourself now, and tie the knot on it quickly, for fear someone rob you on the voyage, when later on you sleep your sweet sleep as the black ship carries you. And when much enduring noble Odysseus heard it, at once he fitted the lid, and quickly tied upon it the intricate knot that the lady Circe once taught him. And straightway the housekeeper called him to his bath, to step in the tub, and his heart was glad at the sight of the hot water, for he had known no such tending since he left the house of fair-haired Calypso, though while he was there he was tended like a god without fail. And when the slave women had bathed him and rubbed him with oil, and thrown a beautiful cloak around him and a tunic, he stepped from the bath and went to join the men at their wine. And Nausicaa, with her beauty from the gods, stood by the pillar of the close-built roof, and marveled at Odysseus as her eyes took him in, and lifting her voice she spoke winged words to him. Farewell, stranger, and sometime, in your own fatherland remember me, for to me first you owe the price of your life. Then Odysseus of the many designs answered her, Nausicaa, daughter of great-hearted Alcinous, only may Zeus grant it so, the loud thundering lord of Hera, that I go home and look upon my day of homecoming, then even there I would pray to you as to a god, always, all my days, for you saved my life, girl. He spoke, and went to his seat beside King Alcinous, and already they were serving portions and mixing the wine, And the herald came near, leading the trusted singer Demodocus, honored among the people, and seated him in the middle of the feasters, leaning him on a tall pillar. And then Odysseus of the many designs called the herald, cutting off a slice of the chine, with more left over, of the white-tusked hog, rich fat along it either side. Herald, here take this cut of meat to Demodocus, so he may eat, and I will pay my respects to him, for all my grief. For among all men upon the earth, singers have their share of honor and reverence, because the muse has taught them her paths, and loves the tribe of singers. So he spoke, and the herald carried it and set it in the hands of the hero Demodocus. And he received it, and his heart was glad, and their hands went out to the good things spread before them. But when they had put away desire for food and drink, then Odysseus of the many designs said to Demodocus, Demodocus, I praise you beyond all mortal men. Either the muse taught you, Zeus's daughter, or Apollo. For all in due order, you sing the fate of the Achaeans, all they did and suffered, all the Achaeans' labors, as if you had been there yourself, or heard it from one who was. But come now, change your path. Sing the making of the horse of wood, which Epeius built, and Athena with him, the snare that noble Odysseus brought up into the citadel, filled with the men who sacked Ilium. If you tell me this tale too in its due measure, then I will proclaim at once to all mankind how the God of his grace has given you divine song. So he spoke, and the singer, stirred by the god, began, and made the song appear, taking it up where the Argives had boarded their well-benched ships and were sailing away after casting fire on their camp, while those others, around famous Odysseus, already sat in the Trojans' gathering place, hidden inside the horse, for the Trojans themselves had dragged it up into the citadel. So it stood there, and they talked on and on, undecided, sitting around it. And 3 ways the council pleased them: to split the hollow timber with the pitiless bronze, or drag it to the height and hurl it down the rocks, or leave it standing, a great offering to appease the gods. And that was the way it was to end at last, for it was their portion to perish when the city took within it the great horse of wood, where all the best of the Argives sat carrying death and doom to the Trojans. And he sang how the sons of the Achaeans sacked the city, pouring from the horse, leaving their hollow ambush. He sang how they ravaged the steep city, each man his own way, and how Odysseus went, like Ares himself, to the house of Deiphobus, with godlike Menelaus beside him, and there he sang he dared the grimmest fight of all, and conquered, in the end, through great-hearted Athena. This the famous singer sang, and Odysseus melted, the tears from under his eyelids wet his cheeks. As a woman weeps, fallen on the body of her dear husband who has gone down before his city and his people, warding the pitiless day from his town and his children, she sees him dying, gasping his last, and pours herself around him with a high, thin cry. And behind her the spearmen, beating her back and shoulders with their spears, lead her away into slavery, to labor and misery. And her cheeks are wasted with a grief most pitiful. So pitiful were the tears Odysseus let fall from under his brows. From all the others he hid the tears he shed. Alcinous alone remarked him and noticed, sitting beside him, and heard his heavy groaning. At once he spoke among the oar-loving Phaeacians. Hear me, leaders and counselors of the Phaeacians, and let Demodocus still his clear-voiced lyre now, for what he sings does not give joy to all alike. Since the hour we supped, and the godlike singer rose, since then the stranger has never ceased his grieving lament. Great sorrow surely has fenced his heart around. Come, let the singer hold, so that we may all take pleasure alike, hosts and guests together. Far better so. For all this has been made ready for our honored guest, his sending, and the friendly gifts we give him in our love. As dear as a brother is the stranger and the suppliant to any man whose wits have even a little reach. So do not hide now, behind shrewd calculations, whatever I ask you. To speak out is the fairer way. Tell the name they call you thereby, your mother and your father and the others, in the town and dwelling round about. For no one among mankind is altogether nameless, base man or noble, once he has come into the world. Parents lay a name on every child they bear. And tell me your land, your people, and your city, so that our ships may carry you there, plotting the course by thought. For the Phaeacians have no steersmen, no steering oars at all, such as other ships carry. The ships themselves know the thoughts and minds of men, and know the cities and rich fields of every people, and swiftest of all things cross the gulf of the salt sea, wrapped in mist and cloud, and never do they fear harm or wreck on any crossing. Yet this I once heard my father Nausithous say. He would tell us that Poseidon looked on us with anger, because we are safe escorts of all men without distinction. And he said that one day, as a well-made ship of the Phaeacian men came home, over the misted sea from such ascending, the god would smash it, and pile a great mountain round our city. So the old man said, and these things the god may accomplish, or may leave unaccomplished, as pleases his own heart. But come, tell me this, and tell it to me truly. Where have you wandered? To what countries of men have you come? The peoples, the cities well lived in, both, the harsh among them, the savage and unjust, and the kind to strangers, whose hearts fear the gods. And tell why you weep and mourn within your heart, when you hear the fate of the Argive Danaans and of Ilium. That fate the gods made, they spun that destruction for men, so that there might be a song for those still to come. Did some kinsman of yours die before Ilium, a good man, a wife's father, a daughter's husband, those who stand closest after our own blood and stock, or perhaps a companion, a man dear to your heart, a good man, for no less than a brother is a companion who is clear-headed and true.